I just played the set you're watching right now against Luke, and trust me, you don't need to know anything about this game to recognize that his fireball is extremely fast. I mean, just take a look at the thing. It's what some would refer to as unreactable. But I'm stubborn, you're stubborn, and when somebody says it's impossible to react or do something about it, it makes us want to find a solution. It makes us want to do the impossible. But in this case, I didn't, because of the simple principle of risk reward. You see, Kami's main way to get around fireballs is EX Spiral Arrow. However, this move is super negative and punishable on block, meaning if I mistime it, I'm gonna eat some massive damage, especially because the opposing character in this case is Luke. And so I'll take a different path. I'll walk and block to close the distance, and maybe I'll jump in with a button when I think he's gonna throw another fireball, because it's a much less risky option. This is all to say, just because you can react to something doesn't mean you always have to. There were many opportunities for me to react to the windup of that fireball, but it wasn't at the top of my mental stack when it should have been, so the moment continued to pass me by until I finally accepted that I will not take that risk right now, and I'm probably not ready to take that risk for this entire game and even the set. But I recognize it as a weakness, and I take a note of that. And that's okay to do sometimes. Not every opportunity is meant to be taken. You just have to accept that you let it slip by and you move on, because the alternative is to get frustrated and, in my case, randomly EX Spiral Arrow in hopes of catching him start up another fireball. To be honest, it actually is impossible to react to everything your opponent can do. Keyword being can. Let's use Valorant as an example real quick. Imagine you're looking away from a flashbang, but in the meantime you get concussed and then blinded and finally slowed. It was impossible for you to react to all that utility at once. Even if you looked away from the flash, you got concussed. And if you managed to dodge both of those, you're still blinded from another angle. And if you manage to get through all of that, you're still at least cut off by some form of slow, whether it's affecting your character directly or the route that you were trying to take. If we translate this back to fighting games, it's like if you were trying to play a perfect game where you react to every option the other character has instead of what they're actually using. You're effectively reacting to a flash, a blind, a slow, etc. that may or may not be coming, when you can instead take a different route and react to the flash that the other team has been throwing the whole game. You're avoiding all of that other utility and reacting to something that is almost guaranteed. But how do we know it's almost guaranteed? That's where we get into reading your opponent, making educated guesses based on pattern recognition and habits that you pick up on. This is when you have to start condensing your mental stack in order to learn the player matchup as well as the character matchup that you probably already know at this point. While both are important, learning to defeat the player takes you to the next level, and I feel like that's where I'm at when it comes to learning this game. And I don't say these games because I don't know any other fighting game as well as I know Street Fighter V, and I don't even fully know this game. I'm not here to brag about how good I am. I'm here to give you an idea of what's to come if you're learning this or any other genre of game. That's really the goal of these videos, while sort of giving me a reference point back to I guess where I was in my fighting game career at this time and my life in general. But when it comes to player matchups, I feel like it's one of the hardest things to do. Everyone's habits differ slightly. There's no one way to play against everybody. The game at a higher level calls for constant adaptation from the player in order to defeat the opponent, and the opponent is playing the same game. It's a race to figure out the other person before they figure out you. I'd say this is when the game really begins. First it was when I was learning about neutral, and now it's learning to read opponents. And because they're two very ambiguous concepts, it takes a lot more thinking and problem solving on my part. Nobody can just tell me how to play neutral or how to read tendencies 100% accurately. There's no measurement to tell you how well you're progressing at this point. You just start to feel it out and recognize things on your own. And it starts to show itself in little interactions, like, for example, when on somebody's wake up, I might do stand light kick and then try and tick throw, and they tech, right? And the next time I'll just throw and they'll instantly tech, so I'll try and strike, but they block, and that tells me, oh, he's delay teching, and then I'll shimmy. I've ran the numbers essentially, right? And I know what he's doing, and so when I shimmy him and I get the hit, it feels so satisfying. Like I was right. Like I came to that conclusion by solving a series of problems, and I figured him out, and it worked. And it's not going to work every time now, because eventually he's just going to do something to stop me from trying to shimmy. He's going to do like crouch light kick, and then I have to figure out how to beat that. But other times they might not adapt, and it might work every single time. Against this guy that you're watching, it didn't, right? Eventually he started like mashing jab to stop me from just walking forward and shimmying him over and over again. But against other people, they won't adapt. And so you only really have to figure them out once, and then it's up to you to realize that, hey, this guy is not making the adaptations that he needs to, and I can keep exploiting this problem that he has in his game plan and just win. At that point, it's not always a two-player game. At the highest level and in ideal situations, both players are thinking, both players are processing, and they're making the changes. At a lower level, that's not happening quite yet, but you'll get there. I just want to get everybody who's watching this, as well as myself, in the mindset of I'm gonna try and really make an effort to figure out what this guy's doing and what his tendencies are, even if he's not making that same adjustment. Because it's very easy for you and me alike to just hop into a game and go straight on autopilot and not even really pay attention to what they're using on the other side of the screen, right? But I think that's all I got for you guys today. If this helped you out, please consider subscribing, and thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again very soon.